Katie from What Katie Did, and I've just got back from the Twinwood Festival in Bedfordshire in the UK. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about the festival and what I found there. Twinwood was a training airbase in the UK in World War II. And because it was a training airbase, a lot of celebrities flew out of there for concerts around the world. And it's most famous for Glenn Miller, who took off in 1944, never to be seen again. So they never actually found out what happened to him, or obviously the plane went down somewhere, but that's all we know. The Twinwood Festival started off as the Glenn Miller Festival, and it's gradually evolved into the Twinwood Festival. And we don't do very many shows. We don't trade at very many shows anymore. We just do the Twinwood Festival, the Goodwood Revival, and in the US we do Dapper Day in Orange. But it's a huge amount of effort to do shows, and we tend to really just do the shows we enjoy doing, and Twinwood is definitely one of those. It focuses on the period between the 40s up to the 60s, and it does, in the evenings on the main stage, it can go a little bit later than that, but there are actually 11 venues around the site, so if you want to keep to strictly 40s and 50s, that's very, very easy to do. The venues they have range from the huge main stage, which is like a natural arena, which is amazing. Wherever you sit, you can see, have a perfect view. And then they have a dancing stage, and then they've got lots of mini venues, and they've actually transformed Nissen huts into little nightclubs. There's a Moroccan nightclub and there's a Parisian nightclub, and in addition there's a Nissen hut which has been changed into a living history museum, and there are a few other museums there as well, so there's a lot to do and a lot to keep entertained. Plus, of course, there's all the trading, which is what my focus is, because we go there as traders, and also we do pick up a lot of goodies when we're there as well. One of the things I really like about the Twinwood Festival is it's a very, very relaxed atmosphere. It runs from Friday afternoon all the way through to Monday. So basically you've got 3, possibly 4 days, so you can really chill out and enjoy yourselves and take things slowly. And although there are some people who are dressed to the nines, and obviously some of our customers are dressed amazingly well, and I'll show you some of their pictures here, but you don't have to, you can really wear what you want. You don't have to wear your best vintage, especially if you're going to be dancing and everything, and it was very, very hot this year, so you don't get looked down on or anything if you're not dressed vintage. You can really, if you're just into the dancing side of it, you can wear whatever you want, and if you want to wear your finest vintage, you can do that as well. Everyone's very, very friendly, and it's down to basically a love of the 40s and the 50s, and not necessarily how you look. Having said that, when it comes to trading, there are an awful lot of very good vintage stands, and I'm not just talking about clothing, I'm talking about all kinds of accessories. This time around there was an amazing, it must have been a turn of the last century, camping bed, which was amazing. It was only £50, but it was like, we had no idea what we'd do with it, but that was snapped up. It would have been perfect if you did a total reenactments camping thing, or if you had a spare room and had room to put this amazing thing. It was in perfect condition, but unfortunately, I mean, it looked great, but we just didn't have a use for it. And there's so many things like that which you've never seen before there. It's just having the space, and whether you actually need it or not, that comes down to question. I should also point out, because a friend of mine asked me to keep them up to date with what we're doing, because they're into dancing. There is a lot of dancing there. You don't have to be a perfect dancer, although there are a lot of great dancers there, but they do have free dance classes, and they have like 3 different venues doing dance classes throughout the day. So if you've ever wanted to learn how to do Lindy or Jive, then it's a perfect place to go, because they teach you the main dances, but also they do more specific dances. So if you are there not working like me, there you can learn how to dance over the weekend and have a great time practicing in the evenings as well. So what did I find there? Well, the first thing I found was a sewing box, and both my husband and my daughter were like, oh no, not another sewing box. And I'm like, you can never have too many sewing boxes, but because of the pressure they put me under, I didn't get it. And then the next day, my husband found this, and he said, you know, what do you think about this for a display? Because when we do our stands, that shows if we have boxes of stockings on the table, it's quite low, so we need something to make them higher. And he said, you know, this box is really nice, and I don't know whether he realised it was actually a sewing box. So he bought this. This is his sewing box, but of course that left me free to get my own sewing box, which is this one here. And by the time this video's out, I will have actually recovered them and done them up a little bit, and they will have been used at our Goodwood event as display items. So now I'll show you what I found in my little sewing box. First of all, I found this Royal Air Force lingerie or hosiery wallet, which is super cute, especially as I found it at Twinwood. And obviously I collect anything lingerie or hosiery related, so that was a really nice find, and that will find its way on a display somewhere. And then I found Lady Gay shoulder straps, detachable shoulder straps, and I have spoken for bras. I have spoken about strapless bras in the past, in the 40s and 50s, not being as supportive as modern strapless bras, and these are designed to be sewn onto a strapless bra, and then you can unhook the straps just like you do with our multi-way bra, which we do now. But that kind of shows that even then people realised that they needed more support from a strapless bra. And it says attach and detach in a second, which I'm not too sure about because you have to sew them on, but once they're sewn on, yeah, they only take a couple of seconds to attach and detach. And then I have my Hankie collection. As I mentioned in another video, I started collecting vintage hankies, and this one I actually have is of York Minster, and we spent a lot of the weekend talking to friends of ours who are other traders, and they do the York Vintage Festival, and when I saw this I snapped it up, and the York Vintage Festival is kind of on our radar. I think we've missed out on a stand for next year, but everyone says it's an amazing event and we would like to do it in future, so this is kind of to remind me that we are thinking about doing it. And yeah, it would be lovely to go to York, because it's lovely to catch up with friends up there and see what vintage there is up there as well. So this is my wild card. Last year there was a stand called Marnie's Vintage, and these little tubes, I bought one of them last year, and what is inside this tube is it's actually an Indian fashion magazine from the 1950s, and it was sent by sea to a lady in Middlesex, Miss E.M. Collins, and I bought one last year, and it's all tied up with string with the Indian stamps, and I couldn't bring myself to open it, so it's been in my bedroom for the last year, just waiting for something special to happen for me to open it, and I really didn't want to open it. So this year I went back there again, and she had more of them. She had a few left, so I bought another one, and the idea is for me to open one and leave one shut, but she pointed out to me that the one I bought last year is to Miss E.H. Collins, and the second one, which was sent later, actually has a printed label on it, and this is to Mrs. Evelyn Bates. So Evelyn actually got married in the time that she got her Indian fashion magazines. Sadly unopened and unread, but I will definitely open these and show you what's inside at some point. And then we have hair flowers. I can never go anywhere without getting a hair flower, and this is by Pin Up Curl, who are opposite us at Twinwood Festival. There's also Shazam, who, if you're a fan of what Katie did, you'll know that we've just about got every Shazam flower going, which is why I didn't buy any this year, because I've basically got them all. But this cute little one, I was wearing grey and red one day, so I got this one from Pin Up Curl. And last thing in the trunk, from Sink or Swim Boutique, I got my Nana scarves. I'll show you how these work. They're a 40s design. And Sink or Swim is by Michelle, and Michelle makes all her clothing for her stands apart from these nana scarves, which are knitted by her mother. So everything's done in-house. It's very much a family business, and I really love these scarves. I've got them in just about every colour now, and they are a bit addictive. Once you start wearing them in the winter, you kind of find yourself wearing them with everything. So be careful, but I think they're really cute. At Twinwood, it's really great to catch up with other traders that we've known for several years now, and I've already mentioned Shazam, who do the hair flowers, but there's also Rocket Originals, who do 40s style shoes and sweaters. There's also Freddy's of Pinewoods, who are mostly well known for their jeans, but they've also diversifying. They do some amazing shirts now and also jackets, and it was great fun catching up with them to see what they've been up to. And there's 20th Century Foxy, a House of Foxy now, who we've borrowed a lot of stuff from in the past. So if you've read our magazine, you'll probably will have seen House of Foxy dresses in there. But it was quite funny because literally every person who came into our boutique was carrying a House of Foxy bag, and she had this amazing jumpsuit which she was wearing on the first day, and she had a few other people who come in. She'd only made a very small run, and they looked absolutely amazing in them. And I didn't get one on the first day because I hadn't made any money, and it's ridiculous because it's not when I do a show, it doesn't really matter because it's my own private money. It's nothing to do whether the company's made any money or not. So I should have just bought one, but because we hadn't made very much money, I thought, no, I'll wait and see what happens. And of course, they'd all sold out. So if you see something you like, just grab it. That's my motto. But the big find for the weekend was from Debbie's Vintage. Now, if you're on the vintage scene, you've probably known Deborah. She's got a huge Airstream, and she's done shows for years and years and years now. And she came up to me before we opened and said, "Oh, I've got this vintage lingerie you might be interested in." And I was okay. And this is another reason why I didn't get that jumpsuit, is because I spent all the money I had with Debbie, and I felt bad about being on a serious minus before we even started. But anyway, I went to her stand, and she had this amazing array of vintage lingerie, which had all come from the same house, a house clearance that she'd been involved in. And it looks like it was someone who worked in the lingerie world, and they're all samples and they've never been worn. So I'm going to do a separate video about this hoard of vintage lingerie, but I will show you some of my favourite pieces here. This comes from someone who is based in London, and I presume it was a lingerie salesperson, because a lot of the things still have tags in with little notes. So we have an overwire Merry Widow here, and the overwire is all in one piece, which is something you wouldn't get today. You can get the repro overwires, which are the overwire is separate, just like underwires are separate, but this is the overwire goes all the way down to the waist, and it's all one piece, so you wouldn't get anything like that made today. So that's my favourite piece, even though we wouldn't be able to do anything remotely like it at all. We are shooting with model Bonnie Flair in a few weeks, and I do want to put her in some of these pieces to show you, to see what they look like on, so keep an eye out for that video. There's some amazing underwired bras, and what's interesting about these underwired bras is in the 50s, now when we have an underwired bra, we have the attachment at the bottom, whereas in the 50s it tended to be right at the top. So that actually finishes very high on your chest. But there's a couple like that. There's another one here, so it's not a one-off. The underwire was very high up. This strapless bra is in pretty poor condition, but that doesn't matter to me at all, because I'm not going to wear it. I'm just going to admire how it was made. And it features one bone over the cup, which is something the Warner's Merry Widow uses as well. It's not a cathedral bra, it just has the one bone which is vertical over the top of the cup. But what I really like about it is it uses fishnet on the top of the cup, and as if you follow us, you'll know that we've done a couple of ranges which incorporate a very fine fishnet over the last year. So it's nice to see it on original piece. And then, let me see, this is an amazing Cathedral Style Bra. The colour, the style, the blue, there are quite a lot of baby blue pieces in the 50s, and it's a colour we find difficult to sell now, but this piece looks really amazing. It's got a velvet at the top to stop the wires poking through, and also it's completely flat boned. You can see the flat boning there, and the flat bones, the gap here is so you can take the bones out when you wash it, so you don't damage anything. So that's got some very cute pieces to be inspired by. And also at the back, quite often at the back, you wouldn't have had a big strip of elastic. You would have had something like this. It's a common design feature from the 50s, which I want to incorporate onto a long line bra, but I haven't done yet. And finally, I'll just show you this one last piece. I just love the way the satin sparkles in this piece. You've got the matte lace, and then you've got the satin insert in the centre, and at the sides the elastic, the shiny elastic. And I just like the way the mix of the fabrics used on this piece. Again, it's a Cathedral bra, and yes, that's got flat boning as well, so flat metal boning with a Cathedral bra. I will be doing another video on all these vintage goodies, so keep an eye out for that. And if you have any questions about Twinwood, please let me know, or if you have any comments, get in touch. And in the meantime, take care, and I'll catch up with you soon.